everyone. Today we have our another new episode and we will discuss on tech and fintech. We have our world famous speaker, Dr. Talib Raphael, and we have Professor David Smith. First, I would like to give chance Professor David Smith.
Dr. Sharif, thank you so very, very much. The topic today is, technology and fintech. And all of us have at some point really thought back about what fintech is, where we've used it, how it has changed over time, and what are we doing with it? And, you know, if you think back to pre-COVID and where fintech was in our mindset there, it was really one of the hot topics that we were looking at. And during COVID, fintech chilled off a lot. So what fintech is the combination of the words finance and technology. And although fintech really is a very broad blanket term that can mean many different things, it describes the really creation of a new industry and the evolution of industry where new technologies, new technology use cases, new artificial intelligence are being developed and deployed to streamline many of the more traditional looking financial functions, but while really looking towards the future. And one of the challenges you have with talking about technology and fintech is the general public really typically associates fintech with some of the cutting edge concepts like blockchain, AI-based algorithmic training, and but the term actually applies to, well, many more applications, many of them boring, such as everyday banking, insurance, back office, risk management functions, and others. And the mobile banking that most of us today take 100% for granted, and many of us rarely, if ever, even go into a bank anymore. That is where fintech actually started, and hundreds of million people around the world are using technology supporting the delivery of traditional banking services, which is even your fintech and the fintech apps and technology. So let's even step back one level further. For those of you who buy airplane tickets online, those who use your Starbucks app and others, that is a form of fintech technology that is there and can be used to make a difference. Now, let me just step back one more time and talk about market size. The global financial technology market has a market value today of about $325 billion. Yeah, and it's growing at a compound annual growth rate of about 25%. And so it has a lot of room left to grow, and particularly because what you're seeing with fintech technology is you're seeing a modification of businesses, a transformation of businesses to a more customer-centric approach. And therefore, one of the questions you always ask us, Dr. Sharif, is there's a lot of room for companies ranging from startups to universities to large corporations even to work on the advances in fintech, because we're seeing them all the time. And fintech really demands a collaborative approach because you've got financial services companies, you have traditional retail companies, you have technology companies that are having together to innovate and put distinctive and disruptive processes in place to advance the business scenarios. And what we're seeing is it's growing acceptance all around the world. Some places that I thought would be laggers in the adoption of fintech technology really are becoming some of the innovators in there. One of the places that we're seeing a huge uptick in fintech technology is the developing nations. where their infrastructure's there, where crime rates might be higher, where you have more organized crime gains and stuff. The fintech technology, being able to conduct it from your mobile device, really helps in that environment to bring it to where it can be used very easily across the different. Now, what we're also seeing is that the challenge in environments like that is privacy and security. And because you've got infrastructure based technology used in fintech, that you have to begin to see it because most of the infrastructure based technology that fintech apps use is open source and open platforms. And you need to see it, but you're also seeing great innovation made in that area through things like chatbots, robotic processes, the RPAs. You're seeing distributed accounting technologies such as blockchain and other distributed ledgers really work there to drive the market and to drive new technologies. We're also seeing fintech technology begin to use it in some exciting new areas. We're seeing new approaches being delivered by digital technology in fintech to go back and use some of the older existing ecosystem approaches that fell out of favor uh, during the really the 20th century and 21st century as you looked at how we finance things. If we go back and look back in history, there was a time where sharing finances, sharing work, you've heard of people coming together to uh, build a barn together, or people in farming communities uh, putting their money together to go out and get a better price on seeds. And other, you've seen people who say, let's work together to go and manufacture something here and then sell it, or to sell our agricultural products at a bigger price because I can now use the community resources. Well, those technology, those applications there, which were manual in many of those instances, it was people helping people. While fintech applications are now doing that with technology and doing it with a wider audience, uh, I can tell you, I don't, I was thinking at the start of this program, when was the last time I've been in my bank? And I have multiple banks now, and I cannot. It's probably been, God, close to a year since I walked into my bank, and it was because I needed them to notarize a piece of paper, and it had nothing to do with the banking function other than the fact that because of my accounts, they could notarize that form for me. Uh, and fintech is what's enabling all of those things, Dr. Shree. And I think that gets us in a starting point right now, and let me pass it on.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Talib Rafal, what do you want to discuss about tech and fintech?
Fintech is connected to banking, as I understood from David. Am I correct? David? Okay. It depends on technology, though. Depends on technology. Because it's connecting to banks without having to go to the banks. I think that's something that all technology is heading towards. Now, the online shopping, by the way, for example, is not different from fintech. Online shopping is something that you do when you're sitting at home through technology, and the material comes to you to your home. So I don't see a connection between fintech and technology other than it's using technology. I don't know if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you. Dr. David J. Kelly, can you hear me? Dr. David?
I think he's muted. He's muted.
Dr. David, can you hear me? That situation, I request again Professor David Smith. Professor David Smith.
Yeah, I'm back. Sorry, it took a minute to get the mouse back down to the mute button. Well, Dr. Fleet is right in that how it attacks, but we're seeing actually it's coming together even more to uh, work with technologies that are more mainstream than we did before. And we see that particularly as we look at some of the apps that are going forward. I mean, if we think back into the 60s, that was the first ATM machines. But now we see ATMs everywhere, and we're seeing them actually even go more and more out of favor because of fintech apps that we can have on our mobile devices and things. And it's advancing it. And the technologies, though, that underpin fintech are very considerable. They include blockchain and other type of distributed ledgers. They include a whole range of data science tools with AI, machine learning, other big data functions like robotic process automation, chatbots, natural language processing. Uh,
How
you're
is that,
seeing,
David? How is that, David? How is it connected?
well, all of those are the underlying elements of fintech. So, one of the things fintech does is it uses technologies like distributed ledgers and blockchain to track the transactions in a transparent area. You know, I will go into some of my fintech apps and it will begin to make recommendations for me. David, you might want to go look at this stock. Uh, you You've purchased these things in the past. Let me know how it can be done today. Uh, I'm sensing, I'm looking at the geopolitical environment. You might want to change what you're doing with fintech here. You see in some of those elements that they're trying to disaggregate the financial services uh, because they were very regulated. Is a form of fintech and how it's done. So, if you think, Dr. Leaf, about the traditional financial service providers, they hold money, they lend money, and they move money. And
Yeah.
fintech does a lot of the same things. You know, cryptocurrency can do moving money, it can hold money, you can see it lending money. You see things like uh, Apple Pay, Vimo, all of those, which have become uh, banking systems, really. I mean, I use PayPal all the time to make payments without incurring the fees I have in my traditional banks. And even though my traditional banks are digital today, by the most part, you still things like Apple Pay, Vimo, PayPal, and others, Stripe, Alipay, and others globally stepping up to do that. One of the other things you're seeing in fintech application is you're seeing more and more of the new products that have been sometimes used traditionally in the past, but things like buy now, pay later, peer-to-peer lending platforms, crowd funding is really a fintech application of trying to get funding into people, particularly startups, or for catastrophic activities with it. The other thing you're seeing is there's applications like one called Wealth Simple, Share Grow, and Acorn that are really AI enhanced ways to save money. And you're seeing now fintech applications get into insurance. So you're seeing even regulatory technologies beginning to come into play in fintech because so many people are banking, traveling, spending on a global basis that that my knowledge of how I conduct business here in Texas doesn't prepare me, for example, to conduct business in Jordan with you, Dr. Sleeve, or when I'm in Osaka, Japan, or if I'm in Thailand, or if I'm in Brazil. I've got to understand some of the nuances of the financial environments of those. And a lot of these emerging fintech applications can help me do that. So I hope that helps.
Yes, can I
Thank
ask a
you.
question,
Thank you.
please, Mr. Professor? Fintech is not applied, for example, in Japan.
Well, actually, fintech uh, Japan was one of the early adopters of some fintech applications.
Yeah.
If you look at NTT, they pioneered back in the early 90s some fintech applications.
Okay. So there's no problem there.
There's no problem there. It's just fintech is a way to combine traditional financial
Yeah.
applications with enhanced technology, particularly with the ubiquitous communications we have now, and the fact that everything's becoming digital. And finance before the internet was mainly manual. I mean, I can still remember doing this, the ledger books where it was, 132 columns on a piece of paper, and you were having to write everything in and balance everything manually. And that's how finance was done without the technology. So the technology has dramatically changed how we do finance, hence fintech.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Okay. Professor David Jekali, what you want to discuss about fintech and how the emerging economy they can get benefit from fintech, especially let's a country like Bangladesh, we are not adapting cryptocurrencies. So, what is your advice?
I had never heard of fintech until just now, so I have no idea.
Okay, okay, Professor Dr. Talib Rafael, what do you think?
Well,
What
I thought I
fintech?
was the only one that did not hear about fintech. I heard the word being said before, but I learned from David now, David Smith, of course, that this is connected to banking and banking systems, which is very important here because fintech now is specializing in a sector of the society, which is banking, financial institutions. And that is going to affect technology altogether. It affects the way of life of people, I think. And in our part of the world, for example, this does not apply. I still have to go to the bank to do some transactions. I cannot do without going to the bank here in Jordan. But many things are being done now online. I don't know if that's called fintech or not. I think fintech is anything that's online, connected to banks. Am I correct, Dave? You have to
Professor
unmute
David,
yourself.
That could be one definition, yes.
I've
Thank you.
done a lot of financial services stuff, but never heard the term fintech before. I thought it was a company.
I heard the term before, but I never understood what it is till now.
Professor David Smith, how you want to like share your knowledge with the emerging economy, especially when our guests they are also learning from your dialogues and your knowledge sharing session.
Well,
How is it connected to cryptocurrency?
yeah, I mean, cryptocurrency is a subset of fintech because it's just replacing the traditional banking industry with one that is more global without the regulatory impacts you see of the traditional fintech area. Um, Fintech, cryptocurrency tries to uh, be a system that is above the financial regulations of national banks, for example. Even though we're now seeing national banks and others getting into digital currency, and digital currency is actually different than cryptocurrency as you look at it. But the thing that I think, Dr. Sharif, that is one of the biggest areas in this area is the fact that at the beginning, fintech technology was startup companies and others, and even companies like Walmart and trying to disrupt the financial industry. Now we're seeing mainstream banks, we're seeing mainstream investment companies uh, beginning to spend considerable money to move all of their services and products and capabilities into a fintech type of market approach. Um, and and that's the trend. If you go back and look at venture capital funding, for example, in fintech, uh, last year set yet another record of VC funding going into fintech. 2021 set a record of VC funding going into fintech. So it is an area where there's a lot of investor interest in seeing it succeed and to go forward. Uh, and you see it running everything from running process, credit risk, to banking, to purchases, to running large hedge funds. And you're seeing large non-government organizations and others begin to use fintech to navigate the complex world of compliance and regulatory issues. Um, and again, like I said before, uh, one of the challenges with fintech is that your privacy, your security is there. And in many instances, your financial net worth is there. So it's really an open area that makes it an attractive target for cyber criminals to attack you. Not only do you have attacks like that, there's fraud risk and others that are beginning to emerge. Dr. Lee, on the cyber, on the cryptocurrency side, we saw one company recently lose billions and billions of other people's money that they had invested in the cryptocurrency company as they went bankrupt, and there's still not a way to track and run that
Yes, right.
back to others. But
Yes.
like I said, you see traditional banks, you see financial institutions are now adapting fintech services for their own purposes. And if you look at those, you see them taking up everywhere from consumer banking, investing, mobile payments, insurance, lending, leasing, all types. And you see a new concept called neobanks coming into fintechs, which are essentially banks without any physical branch location. They're totally digital. They're totally online. Uh, One of the companies I've been advising in the EU, in Greece, and in Athens and Brussels, they do all of their banking now with neobanks. And some of these are things like Current, Vero, Chime, and others, where there is not a single physical location. It's all digital. Uh, you're
So
seeing it in so many different places that it's a trend there. And what's neat about the neobanks, the digital banks, is I can have a digital account for that company here in Austin, the same like they do in Brussels, the same like they do in Athens. And my interaction is the same, even though I'm in a different country, and that those two locations are in different countries. The digital banks, the neobanks, are being optimized for that, where it would be really hard for me to walk into a bank in Athens or in Germany or in Dubai and do something with me being a U.S. citizen and living in Austin, Texas. So that is one of the promises as we begin to take fintech technology and really disaggregate the financial industry by using technology and digitalization and things to do that.
Thank you.
So, if I may ask a question, so fintech is any financial services technology. So, like when I write a piece of software that does stock trading, that's fintech.
It really is. I mean, fintech, if you look at a definition of it, it's the combination of the term financial and technology. And if I believe Forbes and others, it refers to businesses that use technology to enhance or automate financial services and processes. So it could be mobile banking, insurance, investment, cryptocurrencies. I mean, a wide range
But that's like
of,
everything they do. I mean, banking has been based on electronic systems for 50
Yeah.
years.
yeah, but they were like Swift and things and not
Is
available to the
Swift not? Isn't Swift
common.
fintech though?
Well, it's a corporate fintech, but it's not touching the consumers the way this fintech is.
Okay.
So if you think about it, we can do day trading today. Think back 15 years ago, and there wasn't such a thing as day trading because you had to go and visit with your stockbroker most of the time in person or over the phone, and they had to do the trading. You can
Yeah.
do it all yourself today. And if you
Uh,
let me just say one last thing. If you go back and talk to people like at MIT and others, one of the early persons who started the fintech revolution was Michael Bloomberg, as he started Bloomberg. But before that, there were financial service companies, but Bloomberg was a financial technology company. And so Bloomberg Technologies really changed the whole financial service area. And that was one of the first big applications in the beginning of fintech. And I can tell you, many millennials, many Z Gens, they do not know any financial services that are not digital based today. So it's kind of there. Finance goes back thousands of years, but fintech is an occurrence within the last 20 years or so.
Dr. Talib Rafal, you have any questions or anything you want to add?
Not really. I think David summed it up very well in this. I have been educated in this, David. I don't know what fintech was before I heard the term, but I didn't know what it was. So now I want to ask a question here. Is it only financial institutions are called fintech?
I wouldn't say only financial institutions. I mean, you're seeing companies in the United States like Walmart, a big
Yeah,
box retail
that's what I
company, who are
that's what I
beginning
wanted
to
to ask.
do financial transactions. So Walmart has actually applied in multiple states in the United States and in Mexico and other places like that where they serve to be a digital bank and to make digital loans and other things like that. So you're seeing people who move a lot of money beginning to use new ways to interact with the consumers more and take back more of their own business and be able to be more in control. I think that's part of the attraction of fintech is
But
either
doesn't it
companies can take more
doesn't
control or going to the other extreme, you have people who do not want to deal with any authority and they can use fintech as a way to get around that. And that's one of the drivers for cryptocurrency is that cryptocurrency lets you get around the regulation of many different
Currency.
government regulations
Yeah.
by being a global currency there. But fintech is totally changing the way customers, the way consumers interact with financial institutions. And that's one of the big things that I think we miss when we look at fintech is that it's changed the way the whole financial technology can be interfaced from a consumer standpoint, from the way we do things. And if you go back and look thousands of years, you'll see that. And hopefully, StreamYard will process this pretty quickly. Uh, Dr. Sharif, I'm trying to put into StreamYard and still processing a slide that just popped there. Why don't you bring that one up a second? So this is looking back from an MIT professor, how the customer interfaces in finance have changed from pre-20th century up to today. And you go back and you see in banking temples, then you begin to do checks, and then electronic payments with wires and automated clearinghouses. I think credit cards in the 80s. It seems like we've had credit cards since after World War II, but then they became point of use sales. I hardly carry any cash anymore because I put everything on my cards or on my phone. Then you see ATMs and internet banking and mobile payments, mobile wallets. We really saw contactless and cardless systems. I, I'm I oftentimes will just use my phone to make the payments, like for groceries or buying tickets at a concert or things, and not even pull a credit card out. And what we've seen today more is the growth of chatbots, conversational voice assistants, and then open banking, open application APIs are leading to the neobanks and the other cryptocurrencies and things we see now. But if you look at this is really about how the financial functions interface with the consumer, with the customer. And I can tell you, uh, yeah, just looking through this list, I depend on this in ways that when I was a small child, I would have laughed at you. What do you mean we don't go to the bank? I have some friends who are older than I am who won't buy stuff online, who won't do mobile banking, and they're surprised that all the banks from them are going peopleless, where you can go in, you can interact with an automatic teller machine, an ATM, you can do a video conference going back to a central location, but there's no longer people in the branches in many of the parts of the United States today. You're interacting with digital machines, much like you do at home, but inside a brick and mortar facility. And those are closing all the times as banks try to get more profit out of the things. And people are often one of banks' largest expenses. So you can see it, but the real thing behind fintech is this is what it's trying to do. It's trying to change the customer interface for the financial industry. But we have seen that change has been an evolution over centuries, um, and not just today, but really you begin to see technology being applied really in the 70s, really, as you begin to move forward. So,
The
Dr.
digital.
Sharif, I hope this helped.
Yeah, it does.
Dr.
It's
Talib, you
helping.
have any question based on this
Yes,
presentation?
yes. Dr. David, are you also including online shopping as part of fintech?
The online shopping is primarily three functions combined. It's a finance function, it's a retail function, and it is a discovery function.
Okay.
I used to go to the stores and just spend a lot of time walking around to see what's there. I don't do that anymore because I can do directed internet searches and find what I'm looking for. I can compare prices. I can still remember going to 2 or 3 different brick and mortar stores to buy something because I wanted to see what the prices were at the different ones to get the best price. I can do that all electronically now.
Yeah.
So e-commerce is a form of fintech as it relates to the financial transaction, but it's also a form of retailing. And e-commerce really has replaced the ability for people have to travel to shop. So it's a digital transformation of brick and mortar to online, which is fintech is the digital transformation of finance from in-person analog brick and mortar to digital. So the analogies between the two actually go hand in hand.
Yeah, that helps. That helps a lot. Okay.
Mr. David Bigali, you have any questions or any analysis based on this presentation? Can you unmute yourself?
Yeah, that would help. No, it's really interesting. I know one of the things I'm looking to promote is just the idea that some of these fintech technologies like cryptocurrencies and other digital currencies.
Transactions.
I really hope to see that erode the government's ability to regulate financial services, and get away from government control as much as possible.
Mr. David Bigali, you are expert of AI. So do you want to share any experience of artificial intelligence, how it can be helpful for fintech or
Well,
financial technology?
Artificial intelligence, the way it's used today, in a lot of ways, is running the stock market. It's already heavily, a lot of times the stocks that are traded, those are machines trading amongst themselves more than humans nowadays. And AI is a big part of our financial system as it stands now. And I don't think that's going to go away anytime soon. In terms of, I don't think we've really optimized for what we're going to end up doing with crypto, blockchain technologies and financial services. I think that's still kind of a little bit of a green field, as it were, or well, we'll see. We'll see where it goes. I guess it could be good and bad, and I'm not sure I have enough expertise to predict which way it's going to go. But
how is it bad to go? Bad to go in which direction? You mean
good or bad?
Yeah,
I don't know. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Is I don't think I have the expertise to predict where the financial services technology is going to go in terms of using blockchain related technologies. It's essentially a distributed ledger systems with virtual currencies or digital currencies have a lot of potential, but it's still like the wild west as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it 100% is because of the impacts by so many stakeholders on there. And one of the biggest impacts of cryptocurrencies is that it takes control of the economy away from nations.
And that's good, though.
Oh, it's good and bad. On the other hand, it's like here in the United States today, you see our central bank and the Federal Reserve Board uh, trying to keep us out of a recession by modifying parts of the financial system in the United States, by changing the discount rates, by changing the interest rates uh, that are used between banks to banks and other things. With cryptocurrency, that all goes away. So a government can no longer use monetary policy as a way to keep a country, for example, out of recession, to moderate inflation and keep goods affordable for its citizens. Uh, you see nations using their regulatory rights to hamper criminal elements from transferring vast amount of funds around. The largest user today of some of the cryptocurrency networks are still criminal elements who are using it to move money around the world so that it can bypass the regulatory processes and the legal processes of countries. Now, is that good and bad? The answer is yes, it's good and bad. And I agree with you. I like the concept of cryptocurrencies with the ease to use around the world. But my point is that if particularly large nations and important nations are using the central banks and the regulatory bodies like the Federal Reserve Board in the United States and others to regulate their economy and to help protect the citizens in the country from recessions, from inflations, and things like that, it's going to be hard for them to let go of their capabilities to do that to a cryptocurrency that has no control. And that's my point there, David, is
Yeah.
that there's
What
good
about the
and bad
currencies themselves?
both sides of
Currencies
that.
themselves,
Sure,
David, the currencies themselves, the currency, the monopolies
sure.
of currencies. For example, the dollar versus the euro versus the sterling pound. How does
Well,
that work?
well, you see that, so it's like you have Bitcoins, you have other coins like that, which are in essence like sterling, like a euro. It's like the yen. All of the cryptocurrencies, for the most part, are trading in their own currency, like Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So it'd be just like a yen in Japan, or a dollar here, or a pound sterling in UK.
Yeah.
Uh, and again, that's the difference, is that you have all these fiat currencies
But
there,
these
which
pound,
are not compatible with like a Bitcoin. So they're parallel systems, and the world has so many of these parallel systems that it will take a while to go to a global cryptocurrency like David Kelly is talking about. But those are drivers and constraints. And David, I let me give you one difference in terms, if I can. You were talking about predicting where the distributed ledger technologies, the blockchain stuff going. A prediction is a guess. What you're really trying to do from listening to you, you're trying to forecast, because you're trying to use some methods and data to see where the future is going versus
Yeah,
predicting the
that's
future.
true.
I mean, as a professional futurist, I'm sensitive to things like that. And that is one of the mistakes that we make really often, is that what we want to do is we want to forecast where fintech's going. And we want to understand what the drivers and constraints are, what the things that are going to inhibit it, such as the regulatory impacts that we just talked about with national banks on cryptocurrency. What is going to enhance cryptocurrency is the fact that, number one, it has no regulations really. But because it has no regulations, we're seeing vast amount of monies today. I mean, hundreds of billions of dollars just vanish because it doesn't have the oversight that we have. Now, can that come down the road and become more self-governing? That's the promise of people working in cryptocurrencies. They're going to try to do that. But it's still a wild, wild west, like you said, David. And it's going to be developing. And at some point, we'll see these have a place where cryptocurrencies will become a equal to national currencies for ease of global commerce. And it will be like a SWIFT system, Dr. Talif, but for the citizens versus for financial institutions, which is what SWIFT is today. It's a digital currency for financial institutions, but not for
Right.
consumers.
Right.
And I think it will go that way, but there's a lot of constraints that fintech, particularly in cryptocurrency, need to overcome. It's just like I have friends who won't use their phone to buy things, and I would be lost without using my phone to buy things today. Uh, I carry minimal credit cards now because I have them all on my phone. I carry minimal cash uh, because of the ease of fintech and how I can manage. I was on Saturday looking at buying a ring. I'm still scared over that one, but
Why?
I sat there and in the office with the guy who was showing the person I was with the diamonds. I moved funds between three of my banks, and I paid off one of my credit cards where I could put that whole purchase if I wanted to on that credit card and get airline miles out of it. Uh, is I bought a engagement ring, and haven't done it yet, but that is a place where I actually sat there while she was looking at the diamonds. I was doing financial transaction between an investment account, two banking accounts, uh, and another one of my financial instruments, and then going and paying off a credit card where I can get benefits of airline miles of doing the transaction through that. All the while she was trying to look at diamonds.
Yeah.
And that is where fintech has a very interesting place. Now, if I had tried to do that, I would have had to go to multiple banks. I would have had to go and call my investment brokers, which I don't have any investment brokers on those accounts and stuff to do that. And it would have taken days probably, opposed to something that I did probably in 15 minutes. So, Dr. Lee, that is one of the places where I see this fintech technology being a boom for us as consumers. I
Yeah.
mean, if you still have to do all your banking in Jordan at the bank, think how long it would have taken to do what I just described.
Yeah.
And that to me is the difference of that changing consumer interface. Sheree, can you pull up the slide one more time? Just while I'm talking, let me just touch on
Yes.
one thing in here. This is actually from the same source at MIT, what the technology stack is. So at the bottom, you can see the money, the credit cards and stuff. But up this stack, you can see it went to the internet. Then it went to mobile where we had an app on our phones. And I'm going to use phone in that instance. But then it began to go to the cloud, which is basically saying the transactions themselves, the applications live on the cloud versus on our phone. Most of what I was doing on Saturday with doing that was not a mobile application, but it was actually transacting those in the cloud. Then we see AI, machine learning, and things, which is what's happening now applied. But one of the more important things is actually the next line. We're getting APIs and their open application programming interfaces where more and more people can take advantage of it. So I'm sure it's like this in Jordan, Dr. Philippe. I know when I've been in places like Budapest and all throughout Greece and in Germany and Sweden. I walk down the things and I see people using Square cards plugged into their mobile devices, and they'll take payments right there from a credit card. Are you swiping your phone? You electronically transferring money to them because they're all interfaced to these APIs. Now we're beginning to see sensor and telematics in there. So last time I was in uh, Budapest, you would walk down the main street there by the Danube, and you would have some of the shops sending alerts to my phone. This special is in here. We have hot apple strudel. Come in and get some. And that's where sensors and telematics are invading the fintech space. And then, as David Kelly has talked about, we see blockchain and a lot of these cryptocurrencies and new applications that are emerging up there that we're still trying to determine its future. So, the slide prior to this one was talking about how the customer interfaces have changed. And this slide is really now saying these are the underlying technologies that let those customer interfaces change. So I hope this makes sense to you.
It does.
Thank you. Uh,
It does.
Dr. Talib Rafael, what's your concluding remarks for today's session?
Well, I'm more interested in the cryptocurrency part, because the cryptocurrency part tends to actually liberate us from government controls. But it also puts governments in a very awkward situation, because governments will have to deal with that in their own transactions. And the governments in our part of the world are run by powers that are beyond their control. So that's something that we need to look at. Are they going to allow this cryptocurrency to go through? Because the cryptocurrency is going to actually diminish the influence of the dollars and the euros. And people are going to do transactions with each other, not in dollars, not in euros. So that's something that's very serious in our part of the world. Just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thank you. Professor David J. Khalif, what's your concluding remarks?
Well, I just, I guess in conclusion, would want to say I look forward to where fintech goes, and I'm particularly interested in seeing where cryptocurrency goes and how those kinds of technologies affect governments and fiat currencies and financial services in general. And it'll be exciting to see where it goes.
Yeah.
Sharif, let me just say last thing here too. I really appreciate you letting me be part of today. It's been a good session, and I too look forward to seeing where cryptocurrency can go into where the other applications can go. Uh, and, this is the thing. Technology is going to continue to move forward. Once we have ubiquitous communications and everything becomes digital, it's going to move faster and faster than it ever did in past history. So we need to be prepared for this. And Dr. Cleef, you're right. I love the double-edged sword of fintech. It's liberating, it's scary, and it loses control for helping governments help its citizens through monetary policy. So it's got all those different sides to it, and it's going to be a balancing act to see how it can be applied. But it's going to continue to change and it's going to continue to grow. It's not going backwards.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. This is excellent discussion, especially for our audience. They can learn what is fintech and what is tech. And I especially want to give thanks, Professor David Smith, because when any critical uh, topic come, you always come up with your extraordinary knowledge and your views, which is very which is very important. Beside that, I want to share a very, very good news. World Talent Economy Forum, we are launching Nikola Tesla Technology with the help of European Innovation Alliance. Uh, so our conference will be 17, 18. It will be in Dhaka.
When will it be? When
But
again, Sharif? When?
100%
Okay, you're cutting off.
our
Cutting off. Could you repeat that, please? I was asking when.
yes,
When is this?
it says 17 and 18 July. It will be
Okay.
in Dhaka, but anybody can
Okay.
join in online, and especially those who want
Okay.
to publish paper on Nikola Tesla issues like electric engineering, computer science, different innovations on Nikola Tesla. They can submit their research paper in our conference, and through the European Innovation Alliance and iOS Press and Springer, we're going to publish this paper. So Dr. Talib Rafael from Jordan, the university, those who want to publish research paper, we want to welcome. The policy institutions or corporations, those who have high quality innovation and research, they can join.
Thank you. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Sharif.
And definitely, Dr. Talib Rafael, you will be our keynote speaker for Nikola Tesla Technology Conference.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you. Thank you, Dr.
Okay.
Talib.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.